our duty, which is to review, and I'm just going to read out the law so that we're all on the same page when we're going forward. We're to review the economic condition of residential real estate industry in New York City, including prevailing and projected factors such as real estate taxes, sewer and water rates, gross operation costs, including insurance, government fees such as costs as fuel, labor, costs and availability of financing, including effective rates of interest, overall supply of housing accommodation, and overall vacancy rates, relevant data from the accurate and projected cost of living indices for the affected area, and any other data made available to us. And it says it. And I would like to, at this time, talk a little bit about the struggle that we're facing in New York City, right? Everyone is going through a tough time. Landlords of rent-regulated buildings are making 30% returns in profits. While this year income and affordability study shows that wages continue to fall, unemployment isn't any better, homelessness and housing court eviction continue to rise. New York tenants, on average, are paying $979 in rent and $1,058 of their income, right? So think about what that effect that has on a family, right? We have to take into consideration when making our decision that we're putting some families in homeless shelters. That there are currently 50,000 homeless families, people in shelters every night. Our decision will not only impact single parents of children, right, who can barely get by as it is right now. These parents will make the decision of feeding their children, paying the electric bill, buying a new pair of sneakers for their kids, or spending more time or working more hours. This is what our decision means to families of rent-stabilized buildings. But the increase we're proposing is not only increase to affect tenants, right? Tenants are not only affected by this increase, but they're affected by major capital improvements, MCIs, individual apartment improvements, apartment vacancy, which are between 16 and 20%. Harassment that tenants face, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Air conditioning fees, washing machine fees, legal fees, late fees, damage fees, and they're even faced with buyouts, right? Whether they can take that buyout to get a better home. Just last week, I was testifying in front of City Council about tenant harassment and what it means, how much they fight to stay in their homes. The organized tenants of the 3-borough pool, 42 buildings that were being foreclosed, 1,500 units, 1,500 apartments, have seen their rents go up every year by the percent set in this board. While living with no heat, no hot water, being charged illegal 3rd month's rent, and living with deplorable conditions. And I invite all of you to go to these buildings. In the light of all of this evidence, we are still talking about whether we're increasing rents. We encourage that we have a real dialogue of whether this is merited based on all of the evidence that we see, right? This year we learned that, throughout the city we've seen an increase in revenue for landlords, and so landlords are making about a 5% increase, right, in revenue every year. And let's put that in context to what tenants see an increase in their wages. Just this last year, wages only went up by 1.3%. And so we are supposed to pay 5% increases on 1.3% increases in wages. And so I feel like as a board, we're not here to widen the gap of what landlords make. We're here to make a fair decision. City are burdened in paying more than 50% of their income in rent. That's the highest amount that we've ever had in recorded history, right? Like that's just the highest we've had. We were also reminded by Greg Lobo-Jones that while making this decision, we need to consider what kind of city we need to live in, right? A city that includes all of us. not to really preserve rent stabilization is, but also make it equitable, right? For years we've seen constant increases, and what have we seen for tenants? Decreases, right? We just pay more out of pocket.
Less service.
We are here on a very important, charge, right? We're here to simulate what fair rent levels are for both landlords and tenants, not only landlords. Time and time again, this mission has been ignored. The board has consistently ignored its mandate to make a fair decision. It's my responsibility to make sure that there is a balance in the vote and that we're having these conversations. Which is why this year, I hope that we rise to the charge as a board, right? In calling for a rent rollback. Since 2008, we have deserved a rent rollback, and this year we demand one. Again, I encourage you to think about what kind of city we want to live in, and I again propose a negative 6% to 0% rollback for 1-year lease, and negative 2% to 0% for a 2-year lease. All of the amazing stuff that Rachel was reading through, very nice for us, right? So we only want to see a negative 6% and everything else 0 down the line.
Thank you all for your enthusiasm, but it is important that we be able to actually hear each other in the process. Do we have a second for this motion?
I second it.
Can I ask for discussion from the board?
Can I say something, Rachel? I do want us all to consider what we're talking about here. We've heard, as Sheila has so articulately talked about, the struggles of New Yorkers. And it's clear to us, with the net operating income going up each year for landlords, at least for the last 8 years, and net income going down for tenants, the only thing we can do, or the best thing we can do for tenants right now is roll back the rents. And the data really supports it. We heard panelists from the landlord side, panelists from the tenant side, and it was clear tenants are struggling, tenants are suffering, and evictions are up. And we heard from the landlord side where they said, well, we don't really believe the net operating income is going up as high as they say, or we don't really think that we're making as much money as people think, and we really need an increase. The reality is we want the city to be the city we believe in. If we want the message that we've had about the tale of two cities, we really need to vote in favor of this rollback. I encourage all of my board members to do that today.
Thanks, Patty. Other discussion from board members? Okay. Before we vote, Obviously, what Sheila described is incredibly moving and incredibly accurate in her discussion of the challenge that tenants have faced over last years, the difficulty that tenants have experienced in this economy, the difficulty with the unemployment rates, and the incredible challenge that rents have imposed on tenants. It is, as Sheila noted, the mandate of this board to evaluate the data as set forth by several factors. And so, crucially to our mandate is to consider the economic conditions of the residential real estate industry. It is incumbent upon us to look carefully at the costs that landlords have to pay. It is incumbent upon us to look carefully at the projected costs of living that tenants experience. It is also incumbent upon us to evaluate such other data as may be made available, and we're looking to all of you for that other data in the public hearings. We are in an information gathering period. We are in a process where we are filling in the data that the ABLE Rent Guidelines Board staff has put together, and that is a process that has to unfold. And so I think it's important for everyone here to understand that this board takes its mandate extraordinarily seriously. This board takes the tenants' experience extremely seriously. We know the burdens that you've all faced, and we care deeply about those. It is also our obligation to hear from the landlords and to understand the challenges that they face as they attempt to maintain and